Something massive just broke in the Ashlee Jenae case. And I mean massive. Investigators have reportedly recovered deleted video footage from the night Ashlee Jenae died. Not partial footage, not blurry hallway clips. We are talking about footage that was deliberately removed, and the question everyone is now asking is, who deleted it and why? If you are just now hearing about Ashlee Jenae, stay right here because this case has shaken the true crime community to its core, and today's development changes everything we thought we knew. Before we go any further, if you believe there should be full transparency and justice in this case, drop a comment right now and tell me where you are watching from. We have people locked in from the UK, the US, Nigeria, Canada, Australia. This case has gone global and your voice matters. Hit subscribe and make sure that bell is set to all because this channel is covering every single development in real time. Now let me take you back to the beginning because to understand why this deleted footage is so explosive, you need to understand the full picture. Ashlee Jenae was a vibrant, full of life content creator, a woman who loved adventure, loved animals, loved documenting her world for the people who followed her journey. She traveled to East Africa with the man she was in a relationship with, Joe McCann. What should have been a romantic getaway in one of the most breathtaking regions on the planet turned into something that her family is still fighting to get answers about. She was found dead, and the initial response from local authorities, they tried to close the case almost immediately. Let that sink in. Here is a young woman, an international figure with a massive online following, found dead under circumstances that raised immediate red flags for anyone paying attention, and the people responsible for investigating it tried to wrap it up before the world even had a chance to ask questions. But the world did ask questions. The true crime community showed up, her family refused to stay quiet, and now here we are with deleted video footage reportedly recovered, Joe McCann still detained, and a web of details that keeps getting deeper every single hour. So let's talk about this footage. Here is what makes this so significant. When investigators began seriously examining the digital trail from Ashlee's final night, there were gaps, deliberate gaps. Footage that should have existed based on the hotel's own security infrastructure was simply not there. Wiped, gone. And in any high-profile case, when you find a gap in surveillance, you do not just move on. You pull every thread until you find out where that footage went and who had the access and the motive to make it disappear. Sources close to the investigation have indicated that through forensic digital recovery, some of that deleted content has now been retrieved. Now pause. Think about what that means for the timeline. Joe McCann was separated from Ashlee after a reported confrontation at the hotel. He was moved to a different villa, reportedly an 8 to 10 minute walk away. The hotel Ashlee was staying at uses an advanced keycard tracking system, a system that logs every single entry and exit with timestamps. That system combined with any recovered footage creates something investigators desperately needed from day one. A verifiable minute-by-minute account of where Joe was and where he was not during the hours that matter most. And here is the chilling part. If the footage was deleted and it has now been recovered, someone made a decision, a conscious, deliberate decision in the middle of what should have been an open and active investigation to erase what that camera captured. That is not a glitch. That is not a technical error. That is someone saying, the world cannot see this. Who had that kind of access? Who had that level of motivation? I want you to keep that question in your head because we are coming back to it. Now, let me add another layer to this because the location piece of this story is something that mainstream coverage has been sleeping on. Everyone has been focused on the Zuri Zanzibar resort as the central location in this case. And yes, that is where Ashlee was found. But the story did not begin there. Before Zuri Zanzibar, Ashlee and Joe were at a completely separate luxury wildlife lodge, a stunning property where Ashlee filmed the content that millions of her followers saw. The giraffes, the golden hour shots, the engagement video. Yes, The engagement happened at a different location entirely, and here is the part that should raise every red flag. Law enforcement has made zero public mention of that lodge. No footage requested, no staff questioned, no surveillance reviewed, nothing. As if those days, the days leading directly up to Ashlee's death, simply did not happen. In any legitimate investigation, you do not start the clock at the moment of death. You go back. You trace every hour, every interaction, every potential flashpoint. Those days at that first lodge represent a completely unexamined chapter in this case, and witnesses from Zuri Zanzibar have now confirmed that the arguments between Ashlee and Joe did not start on the night she died. They had been arguing every single day since arriving at the resort, so if they were already in conflict when they arrived at Zuri Zanzibar, what happened at the first location? What triggered it? What did those days look like behind closed doors? And why does it feel like someone with influence is making sure investigators never ask those questions out loud? I said it before and I will say it again. The pattern of what is not being investigated is just as telling as what is. Comment below right now. Do you think the police investigation in this case has been compromised? Yes or no? I genuinely want to know what this community thinks because you all have been sharper than half the people reporting on this case. Now back to Joe McCann and why he is still being held. Here is the truth about detainment in a case like this. You do not keep someone in custody for this long on feeling. You do not hold an individual, especially someone with resources and connections, without having something concrete enough to justify it legally. The fact that Joe has not been released tells us something critical. They have enough to keep him. They do not yet have enough to formally charge him. That gap, the space between detention and arrest, is exactly where recovered footage becomes a game changer. Think about it. If investigators now have video that places Joe in a location he claimed not to be, or shows activity during a window of time that contradicts his account, that moves the needle dramatically, it does not just add to the suspicion, it dismantles the alibi. And once an alibi falls apart, everything else starts to follow. Multiple sources have suggested that up to 10 other individuals are currently being held in connection with this case. Some of them may have ties to Joe's network on the island, and reports indicate Joe has traveled to Zanzibar before. That is not coincidence. That is familiarity. That is knowing the layout, knowing the people, knowing who can be trusted and who can be bought. And that brings me to the most uncomfortable question in this entire case. How deep does this go? When authorities first ruled Ashlee's death as self-inflicted before any serious investigation had taken place, that was not incompetence. Incompetence is slow and messy. That was fast. That was clean. That was a conclusion delivered before the questions even started. And that kind of speed in the wrong direction only happens when someone with reach decides what the answer is going to be before the evidence is even gathered. Money can do that. Influence can do that. And if even a fraction of what has been implied about Joe McCann's resources and connections is accurate, this is not just a murder investigation. This is a test of whether justice can survive in a system where the right people have the wrong kind of power. Ashlee's family has been vocal. Her parents have not backed down. They have not accepted the initial narrative. They have pushed. They have spoken publicly, and because of them and because of every single person in this true crime community who refused to scroll past this story, the case is now where it is today. Recovered footage, active detainment, a second autopsy still under wraps, witnesses coming forward, a hidden hotel that law enforcement pretended did not exist suddenly being publicly acknowledged. This is not a closed case. This is a case cracking open in real time. And now there are reports of an additional development brewing that we are monitoring closely, something involving the people around Joe during those final days on the island. Someone may be talking. Someone may have decided that loyalty to Joe is not worth what it costs them. And if that is true, if someone inside his circle is cooperating with investigators, the recovered footage stops being the most explosive piece of evidence in this case. Because footage shows you what happened, a witness tells you why. Think about what that combination means for this case. I want you to do something right now. If you have been following this case from the beginning, leave a comment and tell me the one thing about this investigation that you think is being buried, the one detail that you feel like the mainstream is glossing over. Because this community has been doing real work. People in the comments have been connecting dots that took reporters days to catch up to. This case deserves full accountability. Every deleted frame deserves to be recovered. Every unanswered hour in that timeline deserves scrutiny. Every individual who made a decision to look away, to slow walk the investigation, to protect someone who needed to be held accountable, every single one of them deserves to be exposed. Ashlee Jenae went to one of the most beautiful places on earth. She was in love with life. She was documenting her world. She got engaged. She was feeding giraffes and laughing and creating content, and she never came home. Her family is still waiting. And justice, real justice, does not come from a rushed conclusion or a convenient narrative. It comes from exactly what is happening right now. From recovered footage, from a community that refused to be quiet, from investigators who are finally being forced to do their jobs. Stay locked to this channel. We are going live the moment the next development drops. Like this video, if you believe Ashlee's case deserves full transparency, subscribe so you never miss an update, and drop your thoughts below because this conversation is not over. It is just getting started.